Hello, my name is Harry. I'm the head of magical law enforcement at the Ministry of Magic and the father of 3 children. Today, I want to tell you about 8 magic words that even muggles like yourselves can use. So back when I was 10 years old, I was accepted for admission at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. You probably haven't heard of it, but it's very famous among wizard kind. Anyway, Minerva McGonagall, the deputy headmistress in those days, sent me a letter to inform me of my acceptance. But I didn't actually receive that letter because I was living with a very nasty set of relatives called the Dursleys at the time, and they didn't let me read it. Now, a lot of people, if they sent a letter, or I guess these days muggles seem to prefer text messages or an app that has something to do with a ghost. I should ask Nearly Headless Nick to teach me how to use it. Anyway, the point is that most people, if they sent a letter and it wasn't received, they probably wouldn't feel like writing it all over again and sending it another time. Fortunately for me, Professor McGonagall was not most people. So the next day, she sent me a second letter. On the third day, she sent 3. On the 4th day, 12. After that, 24. On the 6th day, 30 or 40, I'm not making this up, 30 or 40 letters came down the chimney and out the fireplace. I know, she was very determined. After that, when the Dursleys tried to hide me in a hotel, she sent 100 letters to me at the hotel. Then we moved to a hut on a tiny island, at which point she sent a half-giant named Hagrid to fly over the sea and hand-deliver the letter. Okay, so what does that story have to do with a magic word that a muggle like yourself can use? Well, ask yourself this. What is the destination you are having trouble sending a letter to? By the way, that's a metaphor. We didn't study non-magical subjects like English at Hogwarts, but I learned about metaphors in primary school. In other words, what's the destination you were aiming for, but failed to reach on your first attempt and second attempt and maybe your first 12 attempts? Like maybe there's a test or a class at school that you're having trouble passing. I myself received a failing D, that stands for dreadful, when I first took my owls in History of Magic. Or maybe it's like a level of fitness that you just can't seem to achieve, or a muggle Quidditch team that you got cut from. Like whatever destination you have in mind, the question is, how many times are you willing to write and mail that letter? In other words, how many times are you willing to start over and try again? In my case, the reason I finally heard about my acceptance to Hogwarts, news that obviously changed my life forever, was because Professor McGonagall was willing to write as many letters as it took for that message to get through. Do you have that level of commitment to your destination? The first magic word that even muggles can use is determination. Soon after I got that letter, I went to the train station to board the Hogwarts Express. And when I first got there, I was kind of confused because I couldn't see any platform 9 3/4, which is apparently where I was supposed to go. Like all I could see was a barrier between the other platforms. Fortunately, that's when I met Mrs. Weasley, a woman who would later become like a mother to me. And she told me to walk straight toward what appeared to be a barrier. She told me not to be scared because if I was, then I might crash into it. So, what is your platform 9 3/4? What's the place you are trying to go in life, and what's the barrier that seems to be blocking you from getting there? See, here's the thing. Whenever we set off in life to go someplace new, whether that's a new school, a new job, a new forbidden corridor to explore with your invisibility cloak on if you happen to have one, at first it's very exciting, right? But eventually we always run into a barrier, a hurdle, an obstacle of some sort. But like Mrs. Weasley told me, and like I told my own sons before their first trip to Hogwarts, if you become scared of that barrier, if you hesitate, you'll crash. If instead you focus on what's on the other side of the barrier and you walk bravely towards it, you might find that what looks like a barrier right now is actually just an illusion. The second magic word is courage. It's strange, but looking back on it, I don't remember which train car I sat on during that first ride to Hogwarts. And I don't remember which seat number I was in. But what I do remember was that ride was the first time that I met Ronald Weasley, Hermione Granger, and Neville Longbottom. The three of them would eventually become my very best friends at Hogwarts. And in that sense, the journey to Hogwarts was much like the journey of life. See, in life, a lot of people are very concerned with sitting in the front car, so to speak, with being in a better position than everyone else, being more important, having more status, having more stuff. But no matter how great your position in life is, eventually we're all going to end up in exactly the same place. What makes the journey meaningful are the people we are sitting with. And what we remember in the end are the friends that we made along the way. The third magic word is friendship. So we have this saying that the wizard does not choose the wand chooses the wizard. But the core of my wand is made with a feather from the very same phoenix that gave a feather for the wand of my greatest enemy. In other words, our wands chose us, and they gave us equal potential to do great things. But we, the owners of the wands, had to choose whether we'd use them for good or for evil, whether we'd use them to serve ourselves or to serve others. Now, I realize that Muggles don't get the chance to have a magic wand choose them. I know, it's a bummer. But you are born with talents and abilities that you did not choose. And whatever talents you might have, whether they are great or small, you are the one, you are the one who chooses what you want to do with them. You choose whether your talents will serve the greater good or just make you look good. Whether you will make the world a better place or simply make a better place for yourself within that world. The fourth magic word is altruism. All right, I'm going to share some additional details about my adventures at age 10. I'm giving you this warning because sometimes when I share these details, Muggles will cover their ears and yell spoilers which is apparently some kind of muggle spell to induce forgetfulness. Moving on. Maybe you're listening to me and you still don't believe there's any magic that muggles can use. Well, that's not what my headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, thought. My very first night at Hogwarts, we all sang the school song, which is quite a thing to hear because every student chooses their own tune. But Dumbledore was actually touched. It was one of the few times I ever saw him cry. He said, and I quote, "Music is a magic beyond all we do at Hogwarts." At the time, I didn't really believe him. I thought, music isn't magic. But later that year, when Hermione and Ron and I had to get around a three-headed guard dog named Fluffy, we didn't use any spell from our wands. We actually put it to sleep with a flute that Hagrid gave me. In other words, we charmed it with music. I'm telling you all this because you don't have to be envious of the magic of wizards when you have the ability to play or sing or listen to this magic. Music is powerful. The fifth magic word, more powerful according to Dumbledore himself than all the magic taught at Hogwarts, is music. Soon after we evaded Fluffy, we found ourselves in a life-size chess match against chess pieces that could do real harm. In that moment, my friend Ron sacrificed himself so that Hermione and I could escape. He allowed the opposing queen to attack him, and to be honest, we weren't even sure he'd survive. I never forgot Ron's bravery that night, and in the rest of my years at Hogwarts, there were other friends and relatives and professors who made the same choice. Some literally gave their lives to protect me. Their example and Ron's gave me the courage I needed to make a similar choice about my life during the final battle of Hogwarts. Now, I realize your life might not be as dramatic as that chess match. I hope it's not. But you have friends, I hope. You have family members, definitely. You have teammates. When the threat is moving closer, is your first move to protect yourself or to give up what you want for something greater than yourself? The sixth magic word is sacrifice. Speaking of allies, not many people know this, but I was almost a Slytherin. Yeah, when I arrived at Hogwarts, the Sorting Hat didn't quite know where to put me. Now I'm telling you this because I've noticed that Muggles love the Sorting Hat, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because deep down everyone wants to belong to a house or a team or a family, and the Sorting Hat kind of gives you that feeling of belonging, or maybe because the hat knows your personality, and there are few subjects more fascinating to Muggles than your own personalities. But I think the Sorting Hat is most intriguing to Muggles because it seems to know your destiny. Muggles want a hat like that because you agonize over these decisions about your future. Like what to study in school, which profession to pursue, whom to marry, whom to date. And it seems like it would be so much easier if a Sorting Hat could just come along and choose these things for you, right? But remember, when the Sorting Hat looked inside my head, it initially was going to place me in House Slytherin. Only when it saw how much I wanted to be a Gryffindor did it put me there. The point is that even for wizards, destiny is not set in stone. It changes according to your choices. Your future is yours to choose. But what matters most is actually not the house you choose, but the magic you bring to that house. In other words, your destiny is yours to make, but it's also what you make of it. The seventh magic word is self-determination, which has a dash between it, so I'm counting it as one word. Again, we didn't study English at Hogwarts, all right? But speaking of destiny, it sounds strange now, but to be honest, when I first met Hermione Granger, I thought she was annoying. It's sad to imagine how Ron's life and mine would have been so different if we had held on to that impression of her. Fortunately, she helped Ron and I defeat a troll in the girls' bathroom, like you do, during that first year, and we realized she was quite an extraordinary person. Likewise, that same year, the teacher who I thought was plotting against me actually helped save my life. This is a lesson that I've been forced to learn over and over. Fortunately, my friend Hermione has always been there to remind me, among many other things that she likes to remind me about, to give other people and creatures the respect and empathy they deserve. So what about you? Do you know a Hermione? Maybe someone who annoys you, but if you gave her a chance, you might find a new friend? Even as an adult, I admit that sometimes I still jump to conclusions when I meet a Slytherin. And maybe you do that too. Maybe you make judgments if you find out a person is from a certain place or supports a political candidate that you disagree with. Here's the thing, both Muggles and wizards alike have more dimensions and complexities than we see on the surface. But we won't recognize those traits, and we won't even recognize them as a person unless we pause to give that individual respect and consideration. The eighth and final magic word is empathy. Thank you. I'm Josh Sundquist. I actually give non-fictional motivational speeches in real life, but I recently asked you guys on Snapchat and Twitter what fictional character you'd most like to hear give a TED Talk, and the overwhelming answer was Harry Potter, so here you go. Let me know in the comments what other literary characters you'd like to hear give an inspirational speech like this one, and or if you want more Harry Potter. And please click right here to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of these videos in the future. By the way, this is YouTube's new end screen feature. You can click on this even on a mobile device. That's some real Muggle magic right there.